Good day, class. I am EQ. I will be your professor on this journey of comic collecting. Welcome to your introductory course to comic book collecting 101. I'm sorry, I don't know why a college professor sounds like that in my head.
Now, you little punks, get to class.
So, as always, comic fans, comic collectors, and comic professionals, I'm EQ. This is True Believer Comics. Let's go. Comic book community, what's up? I missed you guys. I was sick for about a week and a half, so that's the reason why I didn't post last week's video. But I'm here. I'm feeling stronger than ever.
I'm so strong.
And I'm ready to give you some knowledge, some love, some passion to help you in your comic book collecting journey. So the first thing to think about is, why does comic book care matters? And I'm gonna break it down into 3 parts. The first is art. Just like any painting, just like any sculpture, just like a literary book, comic books are pieces of art that deserve to be preserved for the longest that's possible. Which brings us on to the second part, is that they are a piece of history. Again, 100 years ago,
Really old.
comic books really hit the scene and have been a part of our culture and our society ever since. So they deserve to be respected and preserved just like any other piece of history in our society. And the third is investments. If you're a comic book collector and you're looking for your comic book collection to be a part of your investment portfolio, that you're hoping that they gain value throughout time, then definitely quality determines value. So comic book care is insanely important on your journey. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over the 5 basics of comic book care. Starting with number 1, bag and board everything. When I'm working at the shop, Bam Splat Pow, booth 133, Frank and Son Collectible Show, a lot of people bring in comic book collections to sell that are not bagged and board. And you can tell by the condition of the spine that they were just stacked, raw, in a Tupperware case, no bags, no board. You can see discoloration. It is so important and is literally the number 1 most basic thing you can do to ensure that your comic books last for a long time. And when it comes to bagging and boarding, you want to make sure that you change your bags every 5 to 7 years minimum. As soon as you start seeing some yellow discoloration in the bags, you definitely want to change them ASAP Rocky Balboa.
Rocky Balboa style.
Now, when it comes to bags, you have 2 choices. You have poly bags and you have mylar bags. The difference is not only, number 1, the price. Poly bags are a little bit more cheaper. Mylar bags are a little bit more expensive, but also it's a quality of material. The poly bags are the most common in the industry. That's what you mainly see at every comic book shop, in the bins or on the walls. Mylar bags, you can feel a difference. They're a little bit thicker, and actually it kind of looks better too. They refract light a little bit more. So for your more expensive books, for your key issues, you might want to go with Mylar. For your back issues or your non-keys, you might want to go with the poly bags. They're a lot less expensive. So some of you might know this, some of you might not, but it's definitely worth mentioning that when you're bagging and boarding, for your boards, there's a smooth side and then there's a rough side. You want to make sure that the smooth side is touching the back of the comic book and the back rough side is outside of the comic book on the very back of the plastic. Okay? Now, here's another trick. You also might want to consider triple boarding your comics. I know, it'll be a little bit more work, but let me explain. You have the first board being the smooth side to the back cover of the comic. The middle board does not matter what side it's on. Then the back board, you have the smooth side facing outward, covered by the plastic bag, and you have a triple board. This way, when you're putting them in your boxes, and you might not move your boxes for a while, this is way more sturdier and will keep your comics from bending throughout time. Again, every couple years, you should check. You should rotate your books. You move them around. But this is a way better process that my comic book mentor, Jeff Dixon, taught me, that he implements at the booth. And I see how much quality and care that it has on the books. So I definitely suggest triple boarding every single comic book that you have in your collection. It's going to cost a little bit more, but I mean, aren't your comic books worth everything to you?
It means everything to me.
When it comes to bag and boarding, what changed the game for me is painter's tape. Using this to close your bags is, to me, the most efficient way and easiest way to reopen, to rebag. This is the way. So let me show you something. What you do is you take a smaller piece than that, but you take this, you rip it, right? Then you place it with the bag to close like this, right? But what you do is you take a couple folds and you basically create a flap that won't stick to the bag. So when you close it, you always have this little pull, little lever to reopen the bag. It's amazing. And the painter's tape sticks way less. It's definitely still efficient to the bag closing, but it sticks less to the plastic bag and it doesn't destroy it when you want to open it. This changed the game for me. So most of us, when we close our bags, we use regular Scotch tape and we do either one in the middle or two on the side, absolutely vertical. What that does though is it makes it difficult to reopen that bag without destroying it or without getting a tape pull. The most genius thing I've ever seen, taught to me by Jeff Dixon, is you take a smaller piece of tape, you place it diagonal at an angle on both sides of the comic book bag flap, and when you open it, it is so much easier, less stress on the book, less stress on the plastic bag, so it's just a win all around. That literally changed the game for me as well when it comes to using regular tape on comic book bags and boards. I mean, who would have thought? The next thing we're going to talk about in comic care is avoid tape tears and pulls. Let me show you a little trick. So first, you open the comic, right? And just like us all, we have a little bit of fear on the tape pull. So that's when the tape attaches to the comic when you're pulling out a book. So what you want to do is you want to get a firm grab on the comic, right? And then you want to quickly take it out. I'm telling you, it works every single time. Like, it hasn't failed me since.
No, I won't fail.
Right? So, and you also, when you're putting a book back, you fold the flap over, then you insert the comic book back into the bag, fold it back over, and boom, you're there. No tape pulls, no tape stress, no tape tears. You won.
Woo! Win-win!
So the next thing in the 5 basics of comic book care is storing your books vertically, not horizontally. I see so many people bring in books from their collections to sell or to show off, and they're storing their books like this, which is a leading case of spine roll, certain stress, certain dents. It's just like a regular book. You know, when you have book ends, you want to store your books vertically at all time and in a comic book box. This is a short box. This is the most common thing that comic collectors keep their comics in. And as you can see, I'll hold it up a little bit, right? As you can see, all the books are vertically stationed, and also there's a little play. I might need to fill this in a little bit so there's not as much play, but with the triple back boards, they won't bend as much as if they weren't, and also there's a lot less stress on them than to have them horizontally. So short box, and store vertically. Okay? The next lesson in comic book care is store your comic books in a cool place.
So stay inside and stay cool.
The least humidity, the least sunlight, the least heat as possible, that's where you want to keep your comic books. Me, I store my comic books in a closet that's far away from direct sunlight. I've tested that closet for certain humidity levels. Never keep your comics in an attic or a damp garage. That's going to do nothing but destroy your comic books with time, and you couldn't even be doing anything. That's the weather, man. That's not even up to you.
It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault.
So take precautionary measures and keep your books in a very dry, cool, shaded area. The next lesson is handle your comics with care. I've seen so many comic books with a greasy potato chip, I don't know what they were eating, fingerprint on them. I've seen books that you can tell have just fell to the ground, and just like, why? Just be cautious, be patient, take your time when it comes to handling a comic book. Me personally, when I'm handling especially one of my key books or more expensive books, I use gloves. And that's even after I wash and dry my hands thoroughly. So take the time, invest in things to help you care and take care of your comic books, and they'll last a long time. So the last thing in comic care basics is you might want to consider getting your comic books graded and slabbed. This will ensure that your comic book stays in the same condition for even longer than a regular bag and board scenario. And you want to make sure that you have the aftermarket bag so that your slab doesn't get scratched. I see a lot of scratch slabs, and that literally devalues a lot of these slab comic books. So get the aftermarket bag, send it to CGC, send it to PSA, send it to CBCS. It doesn't matter. When it comes to preserving your book, a lot of them will have a high quality case that will preserve your book for a long time. We talked about what to do. Now let's talk about what not to do. You definitely don't want to attach any type of rubber bands or paper clips to any comic book or any comic book situation. Never.
Never!
You also don't want to leave your comic books in the car, especially if you live in a hot or humid part of the world. The next thing, like I tell everybody who comes to my house and who wants to see my comic collection, there is no eating or drinking anywhere near comic books.
No food or water.
You might think that you're careful. You might think that you're being safe, but one accident, one slip up, you could spill a drink on a key issue or an expensive book, and whoo, that's gonna hurt.
That hurts.
That's right.
So what does all this mean, EQ? I got you. Basically, it's comic care equals collection value. The better you take care of your comics now and you maintain them throughout the years, the more valuable your collection is going to be, and that's outside of just how much you love them in the first place. Why not take care of them and be able to enjoy the comics that you love 10, 20, 30 years from now in the same condition that they are right now? It's an easy choice, easy win. So for all my comic book collectors, I'm going to leave links down below to everything that I use for my comic collection care needs. And a lot of people have been asking me on social media, what is this box? They've seen it on my comic collection day, on new comic book day. I use this pretty much every single day. And this is called a comic book portfolio case, okay? You can even put a comic book slid into the front sleeve, which this is one of my favorite comic books growing up as a kid. Before you go, I want to hear your #1 comic book care tip that you want to share with the community. Also, if you have a horror story of something crazy that's happened to your comic books because of you, because of others, I need you to comment below, share it with the community so we could either learn from your great lessons or learn from your great mistakes. And while you're doing all that, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit that little bell notification thing. I'll be dropping a new video back on track every Wednesday, and I appreciate everybody for your support. So as always, love, peace, wisdom, and strength.